The Big Bang did not bang. That's the first lie you were told. Not because scientists meant to deceive you, but because they, like all of us, were trying to make sense of something far too large, far too ancient, and far too strange to grasp in human terms. You picture it as an explosion, a burst of brilliant light erupting from a single point, flinging galaxies outward like embers from a cosmic fire. But that's not how it happened, not even close. You might think the universe began with a sound, a roar, a detonation, but space has no air, no medium to carry sound. The universe was born not in a shout, but in silence. If you could rewind time, not your own life, not the age of your species, not even the ancient fossil record, but all the way back, past stars and galaxies, past atoms and light, past even the laws of physics as we know them, you wouldn't arrive at a moment. You'd arrive at a question, not a beginning, but an absence, not a spark, but a whisper of possibility. We are told the universe began as a singularity, an infinitely dense, infinitesimally small point containing all the energy that would become everything. But no one has ever seen a singularity. No one knows what it looks like. No one knows if it even exists. And yet we built our cosmology on it. A myth cloaked in math, elegant and terrifying. Ask yourself this: how can something come from nothing? How can existence erupt out of absence? The Big Bang Theory doesn't solve this. It simply skips the question. It starts the story one frame too late, like a movie that begins with a door already ajar, never showing who opened it. They say time began with the Big Bang, but time is a measurement of change, of before and after. And if there was no before, then how can we say anything began at all? You may imagine space expanding from a center, like ripples in a pond. But where is the pond? What lies outside the ripple? The truth is more unsettling. There is no edge, no center, no explosion in the traditional sense. Every point in space is moving away from every other point. Not through space, but with space. Space itself is stretching. There is no outside to expand into. The cosmos did not erupt into a void. It created the void. Now consider this. If the entire universe was once compacted into a single point, then everything, every galaxy, every atom, every breath you've ever taken, was once crushed together, indistinguishable. That means you were there, somehow, somewhere, inside that point, alongside every star that will ever shine and every planet that will ever form. And yet, even that isn't true, because the Big Bang didn't happen in a place. It was the place. There was no universe around it, watching it unfold. There was no stage upon which the drama of creation played out. The Big Bang wasn't an event in the universe. It was the universe becoming itself. So now you find yourself floating in a paradox. The deeper you peer into the moment of creation, the less it looks like a moment, the more it dissolves into uncertainty. You chase the beginning, but the trail evaporates beneath your feet. You want to believe there was a bang, a flash, a birth. But what if it was more like a shift, a ripple in a field? We cannot see a change in the rules themselves. You were taught to think of the Big Bang as a question, answered. But what if it's the answer that hides a deeper question? You see, The Big Bang doesn't make sense, not because it's wrong, but because it's incomplete. It's a placeholder, a shadow, a crack in the glass through which we glimpse something we're not yet ready to see, something older than beginnings, something stranger than time. And if you listen closely, not with your ears, but with your mind, you might hear it. Not a bang, not even a whisper, but a silence, expanding. Imagine the universe not as a place, but as a story. A story that begins not with a first word, but with a breathless pause, an opening beat before sound, before structure, before anything that could be called real. You've been told this story starts at the Big Bang. That space, time, energy, and matter all came into being in one sublime instant, a singularity, a beginning. But let's set aside that certainty for a moment. Let's take one step back, not into time, but into the very idea of beginning. Because something strange happens when you try to define the universe. The more precisely you describe it, the less it behaves. The clearer the picture becomes, the more the edges blur. Let's start with the most basic truth. The universe is expanding, not like a balloon inflating into empty space, but like the very fabric of reality, stretching itself apart. Galaxies aren't flying through space. They're being carried by it, like ants on a rubber sheet that's slowly pulling itself wider. And it's not just that everything is moving away. It's that the farther something is, the faster it recedes. This isn't motion, it's geometry unfolding. In 1929, Edwin Hubble noticed this strange pattern. He saw that galaxies were red-shifted. Their light stretched toward the longer red end of the spectrum. At first, it seemed like Doppler effect, the same way a train whistle lowers in pitch as it rushes away. But it wasn't motion through space. It was space itself growing longer between the galaxies. The distances weren't changing because of movement. The distances were the movement. This discovery shattered centuries of assumptions. For millennia, we believed the cosmos was fixed, eternal, static. Even Einstein thought so. He added a cosmological constant to his equations just to keep the universe still. But the universe wouldn't stay still. It was alive, dynamic, restless. And so we arrived at a new picture, an expanding universe that once must have been smaller, tighter, hotter. That's where the Big Bang steps in. Not as an explosion in space, but as an expansion of space. A fire that didn't burn in the dark, but created the dark. A furnace without walls, forging not just atoms, but the very arena they existed in. But even this picture is not complete. Let's rewind again, all the way back. In the earliest moments, fractions of a second after the so-called beginning, the universe was dense beyond imagining. Not just hot, but unimaginably thick. Think of a trillion stars spacked into a space smaller than a pinhead. Think of time trying to tick, but having no rhythm to follow. Think of light existing, but having nowhere to go. This wasn't a place, it was a state. Physicists call it the quark-gluon plasma, but that's just a name. What it really was is more elusive, a boiling sea of potential. Forces not yet separated. Particles not yet born. The laws of physics still finding their footing. Gravity, electromagnetism, the strong and weak nuclear forces, what we now see as distinct had not yet emerged from the haze. Imagine a room where sound and light and color all exist, but are tangled into one indistinguishable roar. That was the early universe, and then change. Rapid, chaotic, brilliant change. As the universe cooled, it began to differentiate. Just as steam condenses into water, energy condensed into particles. Quarks combined into protons and neutrons. Light began to scatter less and travel more. The universe became transparent. This moment, about 380,000 years after the beginning, is still visible to us today. It's the cosmic microwave background, the oldest, light in existence, glowing photograph of the infant cosmos. You might imagine it like this: a vast red-orange fog stretching in every direction, frozen in time. This light has traveled for over 13 billion years, stretching as it goes, telling us the story of its origin. And yet, what it tells us is incomplete because something doesn't add up. When we look at that ancient light, we see smoothness, uniformity. No matter where we look, the temperature is nearly the same. But how if the universe began in a single point and expanded rapidly? How did opposite sides of the sky, too far apart to have ever touched, end up so identical? How did they know to match? This is known as the horizon problem, and it's one of many cracks in the story. To fix this, scientists proposed a bold idea. Inflation, a period of faster-than-light expansion that occurred in the teeniest instant after the beginning. Not just fast, instantaneous. In less than a trillionth of a second, the universe went from subatomic to cosmic in scale. It didn't just expand, it exploded in size without an explosion. Inflation solved the smoothness problem. It stretched any early irregularities flat. But inflation comes with its own questions. What caused it to start? What made it stop? And why did it happen at all? The truth is, we don't know. Inflation is a patch, not an explanation, a theory invented to fix the parts of the Big Bang that didn't work. And like all patches, it covers a hole but doesn't eliminate it. And so we are left with a troubling contradiction. We live in a universe that is expanding, born from something like a beginning, governed by laws that emerged after the fact. A cosmos that makes enough sense to predict, but not enough to explain. We use equations to trace its past, but those equations break down at the very place we most want to understand, the origin. And if the laws of physics themselves were born in the Big Bang, then what guided the birth? If the universe has no edge, then where does it begin? If time began at the Big Bang, then how can we speak of anything before it? If space was created in the expansion, then what did it expand into? These aren't just semantic puzzles. They are the heart of the cosmic mystery. They tell us that something about our picture is off, that perhaps we're using the wrong frame, that maybe the Big Bang is not the beginning of everything, but the end of our understanding. Because when you stare into the earliest moments of the universe, you find not clarity, but questions shaped like shadows. The more you illuminate them, the more they stretch. And somewhere in that darkness, something else waits. You were told time moves forward, that there is a past, a present, a future, that we're all riding along a straight track pushed forward by an invisible hand. But what if that's not true? What if the arrow of time is just a story we've agreed upon? What if reality isn't a river, but a frozen lake? Every moment crystallized, waiting to be noticed. Let's begin with a singularity. It sounds so clinical, doesn't it? Singular, as if it were simple. One point. One truth, one beginning, but the word hides something terrifying: the collapse of understanding. In physics, a singularity is not just a point of infinite density. It's a point where our math fails, where the laws of nature buckle and scream, where space and time lose meaning. In a black hole, a singularity lies at the core, a point where matter is crushed beyond form. But here's the cosmic twist. The universe itself may have emerged from such a point, a singularity not buried in darkness, but radiating outward, expanding into everything. But how can that be? If singularities mark the breakdown of the rules, how can they begin something? Can chaos give rise to order? Can the incomprehensible give birth to the structured? Or have we misunderstood the nature of beginnings entirely? Now imagine time not as a line, but as a reel of film. Each frame, a moment. Each scene, an entire universe. What if the reel exists all at once? What if every moment, your first breath, the death of the last star, the rise of galaxies, the fall of civilizations, already exists, not in sequence, but in simultaneity? This is the idea behind the block universe, a model where time is static, where change is illusion. In this view, you are not moving through time, you are located in time, like a speck on a canvas. Every choice you will ever make, every path you could have taken, they all exist, already, forever. It's unsettling, isn't it? The thought that free will might just be your perception of not knowing what's next on the reel. But even that is too simple, because there are cracks in this reel. Cuts, loops, holes, and that brings us to the next theory. Time loops in certain solutions. To Einstein's equations, time is not a straight line or a frozen block. It's a spiral, a loop, a path that curves back into itself. It's called a closed time-like curve. And it means, theoretically, the end could feed the beginning, that the universe could be a snake swallowing its own tail, that you might die before you're born, that history might repeat, not metaphorically, but physically. There are quantum theories that suggest time itself could be granular, not smooth, but pixelated, not continuous, but discrete. Like the frames of that cosmic film reel, you can't zoom in forever. At some point, you hit the smallest unit, the Planck time. Beyond that, time ceases to be a meaningful concept. It's like trying to split a thought in half. And then there's the theory that truly warps everything. The multiverse. You've heard the word before, thrown around like science fiction. But it's not fiction. Not entirely. In many serious cosmological models, especially in inflation theory, the idea arises naturally. If the early universe underwent rapid expansion, it might not have stopped everywhere. It might still be expanding somewhere out there, creating bubble universe in a grand cosmic foam. Each bubble, a universe with its own laws, its own physics, its own version of you, or none at all. Some bubbles might be dead empty. Others might teem with exotic forms of matter and life. Some might be born with gravity that crushes everything instantly. Others might drift forever, never forming stars. And somewhere in this infinite spray of possibility is this one, the one you're sitting in now. But if there are infinite universes, what makes this one special? Why are we in a universe where stars live long enough to form planets, where matter clumps just right to form galaxies, where life can even exist to ask these questions? This is the anthropic principle, The idea that the universe must have properties that allow observers, because otherwise we wouldn't be here to observe it. It's logic that loops in on itself. A tautology dressed as an answer. But doesn't that feel too easy, too neat? There are physicists who argue that the multiverse isn't a conclusion. It's an escape hatch. A way to avoid confronting how deeply bizarre our own universe really is. A way to explain fine-tuning by hiding it in infinity. And then, of course, there's the quantum realm, the ultimate hall of mirrors. At the smallest scales, particles don't behave like tiny balls. They exist in superpositions, ghosts of possibility, until observed. Electrons pass through two slits at once. Photons interfere with themselves. Reality doesn't crystallize until it's measured, until you look. It raises a disturbing thought. Does the universe exist without an observer? And if not, then who was observing at the beginning? Some interpretations of quantum mechanics, like the many worlds theory, suggest that every quantum choice creates a branching universe. That every flip of a coin, every thought, every breath, spins off an alternate world. If that's true, then somewhere, in some other version of this very moment, you're not listening to these words. Somewhere, you never existed at all. So what is the universe? A singularity made of silence? A loop of forgotten time? A branching tree of infinite worlds? Or a dream dreaming itself into being? Each theory offers clarity and then dissolves into paradox. You start with a singularity and end up with a fractal. You begin with certainty and arrive at wonder. And just when you think you've grasped the edge of truth, it slips through your fingers like light. This is where science becomes poetry, where equations become incantations, where knowledge itself curves back into mystery. And somewhere, out in that great unknowable darkness, the universe continues, not answering but asking. There are moments in science where the questions grow louder than the answers, where discovery doesn't clarify but complicates, where every solution opens a deeper wound in our understanding. And at the heart of modern cosmology, this is exactly where we stand. Take the speed of light, for instance. It's more than just a speed limit. It's the rhythm of the universe, the metronome that governs all movement, all causality, all connection. Nothing can outrun it. Nothing can even reach it without shedding all mass, all identity. But why that speed? Why not faster? Slower? Variable across time? This constant defines the structure of reality, yet its origin is cloaked in silence. Physicists can measure it. They can use it, but they can't explain why it is what it is. It's simply, as like a rule written before the first game was played. Now consider entropy, the tendency for everything to move from order to disorder. The second law of thermodynamics, a quiet decay, written into the fabric of existence. Everything ages. Everything unravels. But here's the paradox. If entropy always increases, why did the universe begin in such an improbably low entropy state? Imagine a deck of cards perfectly sorted by suit and number. That's the early universe. Perfect order. Impossible. Precision. But who stacked the deck? If entropy increases over time, the universe should have started in chaos, not structure. So why the reverse? Why this cosmic head start? Some scientists suggest inflation reset the entropy. Others argue we misunderstand what low entropy really means at universal scales. But all agree this is not a settled question. It's a wound. One we keep dressing with new theories, hoping the bleeding stops. And then there's dark matter, the invisible scaffolding of galaxies. You can't see it. You can't touch it. You can't taste it, smell it, or trap it. But it's there, holding galaxies together. Without it, stars would fling outward into the void. Clusters would unravel. Gravity alone, from visible matter, is not enough. We've known this since the 1930s, so we made a placeholder. Dark matter. Something that must be there, though it has never been directly observed. We know its gravitational fingerprint, but not its face. It accounts for 85% of all matter in the universe, and we have no idea what it is. Maybe it's a new kind of particle. Maybe it's a modification of gravity itself. Maybe it's not a thing at all, but a crack in how we understand space and time. And if that weren't enough, we must also confront its twin dark energy. If dark matter holds the universe together, dark energy tears it apart. You were told the universe is expanding, but what you may not know is that this expansion is accelerating. Galaxies aren't just drifting, they're fleeing faster and faster into emptiness. Something is pushing them, something repellent, something we can't see. We call it dark energy, and it makes up nearly 70% of the universe. Think about that. Almost everything that exists is invisible, untouchable, unknowable. Only 5% of the cosmos is made of what we call normal matter. Stars, planets, humans, atoms. The rest is mystery. We live in a ghost universe, a theater of shadows. Now fold in quantum mechanics. The engine of the small-t quantum theory tells us particles are not really particles. They're probabilities, ghosts of themselves. They flicker in and out of existence. They can be in two places at once. They can affect each other instantaneously across space, in a phenomenon Einstein called spooky action at a distance. This isn't a metaphor. It's experimentally verified. Quantum entanglement is real. Change the state of one particle here, and its partner, light years away, reacts instantly, as if space doesn't exist between them, as if some deeper layer of reality connects them behind the scenes. This breaks causality. It breaks locality. It breaks everything we thought we knew. And yet, quantum theory works. It predicts perfectly. We use it to build computers, lasers, nuclear reactors. It is the most successful theory in physics. And yet, it defies interpretation. Why does measurement collapse a wave function? Why does observation seem to create reality? And what is reality before we observe it? Is the moon there when no one is looking? And now, the ultimate question, what came before the Big Bang? Cosmologists often dodge this question. There was no before, they say. Time began at the Big Bang. But this answer satisfies only for a moment, because the question lingers. If time began, what mechanism brought it forth? Can something emerge from nothing without time to do so? Doesn't emergence require time? So, what does beginning even mean in a context where time didn't exist? Some propose a cyclic universe, a cosmos that expands, contracts, and rebirths itself endlessly. The Big Bang would then be a bounce, not a beginning, an echo from a previous collapse. Others suggest a quantum genesis, where the universe is a fluctuation in a timeless quantum field, a moment of uncertainty that spilled over into permanence. Then there's loop quantum gravity, proposing that space-time itself is made of discrete loops, woven like threads in a cosmic fabric. In this model, the singularity isn't infinite, it's a compressed bounce point where quantum geometry becomes dominant. But none of these ideas are conclusive. They're maps without landscapes, blueprints for buildings that may never be built, and above them all looms the measurement problem, the clash between the deterministic elegance of general relativity and the chaotic probabilities of quantum mechanics. One describes the smooth curvature of spacetime, the other, the jagged randomness of particles. But they refuse to merge. Attempts at unification, like string theory and M theory, promise a theory of everything. But decades have passed, and still, no answers, just more dimensions, more vibrations, more uncertainty. And then, perhaps most disturbing of all, there's the simulation hypothesis. What if the reason the universe seems structured like code, quantized like pixels, and observer-dependent, like a screen, is because it is a simulation? What if reality is computed? This idea is no longer fringe. Serious scientists have entertained the possibility. After all, if consciousness arises from information processing, and if universes can be simulated with enough computing power, then simulated minds would vastly outnumber biological ones. Statistically, it becomes likely that you are not real in the way you think. What if the Big Bang wasn't a beginning, but a boot sequence? What if our constants, our laws, our very notions of physics are settings on a dial? And what if those settings can be changed? Now pause. Let all of this settle, because here we are. Suspended between infinities, we inhabit a universe we do not understand, ruled by laws we cannot derive, filled with substances we cannot detect, structured by time we cannot define, and born of an origin we cannot reach. Every step closer to truth reveals a deeper paradox. Every answer births new mysteries. We are not at the end of a knowledge. We are standing on its event horizon. And yet, there is something beautiful in this unknowing. Because to question the universe is to participate in it. To wonder is to belong to it. And in that sense, maybe we don't need all the answers. Maybe the questions themselves are the point. Maybe you are the universe asking what it is. You are not where you think you are. You believe you're standing on solid ground, that there's a floor beneath your feet, a sky above your head, and a sense of time gently moving you from moment to moment. But strip away the illusion, and what are you, really? A thin film of awareness, clinging to the surface of a cooling rock, drifting through a void so vast it cannot be measured, only imagined. A blink in cosmic time. A fragile flicker in a universe that does not know you exist. Now hold that thought and let it break you. If time is an illusion, then everything you've ever done, every decision, every heartbreak, every whispered memory, might have already happened. Not once, but countless times. Over and over. A loop in a dream you cannot wake from, and if the universe is eternal, then so are you, trapped in a version of yourself that repeats endlessly. What if there is no free will? What if the choice you think you're making now was already coded into the fabric of space? What if the you who questions this is just a function, An AD, echo, a ripple, in a system far more ancient and indifferent than you could possibly comprehend? Pause, breathe. Now imagine this. Our universe, 93 billion light-years across, expanding faster than light, filled with more stars than grains of sand on Earth, may not even be real. Not as you understand the word. Not fixed, not solid, but woven together from patterns, probabilities, and perception. It may not have edges, but it has limits. Limits you will never cross. Limits no being can cross. There are regions of space so far away that their light will never reach us, not even at the end of time. They are forever lost, parts of the universe that will never meet, realities that will never touch. And here's the terror. As the universe expands, that separation grows. More and more galaxies drift beyond our horizon. Entire realms vanish from our future. We are being isolated, bit by the expansion of reality itself. One day, billions of years from now, our descendants, if any remain, will look into the sky and see nothing. No galaxies, no clusters, no echo of the Big Bang. They will believe they are alone, that the universe is small, that nothing came before them, and they will be wrong, because the truth will have slipped away, stretched beyond their sight. Reality itself erases its own memory. Now ask yourself, if the universe forgets, do we? What are we if not memories pretending to be matter? You might think you're solid, that you're made of atoms, neurons, chemicals. But trace those atoms back far enough, and they dissolve. You're made of particles that are mostly empty space. You're made of probabilities, possibilities, echoes of stars that exploded long before Earth existed. The iron in your blood, the calcium in your bones, the oxygen in your breath. These are not things. They are histories. You are the aftermath of cosmic violence, a collection of ruins pretending to be a person, and still, somehow, you feel, you love, you fear. You dream of permanence in a universe that allows none. This is the crisis. What if the universe is not dead but dreaming? What if consciousness is not a byproduct of matter, but its purpose? What if we are not accidents, but instruments? What if your thoughts, your memories, your sense of I are not yours at all, but borrowed from something larger, something older, something watching itself through you? What if the universe is alive, and we are just its fleeting thoughts? Now, let's go deeper. Imagine this, a simulation so advanced you couldn't tell it apart from real. Every atom, every law of physics, perfectly rendered. Pain, joy, light, love, all coded. And within this simulation, beings evolve. They build telescopes. They ask questions. They wonder if they're in a simulation. And they are. Now ask yourself, how would you know if you were one of them? Every time you touch something, taste something, cry, sleep, dream, what if those sensations are functions, scripts running in a deeper machine? The universe might not be natural. It might be designed, not by gods, but by minds beyond our comprehension. Minds who exist outside our frame of reality, outside our physics, outside our time. And perhaps we were never meant to know. Perhaps your curiosity is the flaw. The glitch, the thing that wasn't supposed to happen, but it did, and know where you are. listening to a story that shouldn't exist, feeling things that shouldn't matter, asking questions that tear at the seams of the program itself. And if you're afraid right now, good. You should be, because fear is a signal, a beacon in the dark. It means you're awake. Most people never get this far. Most people go their whole lives without seeing the walls. But you're starting to see them. The flicker behind the stars. The silence that isn't empty. The question that keeps echoing. What are you? A creature? A character? A coincidence? Or a consequence? Maybe the universe didn't begin because it had to. Maybe it began because it could, and maybe you are not the center of that story, but the side effect. So what do you do now? You breathe. You wonder. You look up at the sky and feel its weight. You carry the burden of knowing that everything you love is temporary, that everything you are is borrowed, and that nothing is guaranteed to last. But here's the paradox. In that fragility, you find meaning. Because if this is all a dream, then your actions still matter. Your kindness still echoes. Your curiosity still burns. Even if the universe forgets, you remembered for a while. And maybe that's enough. Maybe awareness, however, brief, is the universe's only chance to see itself. And maybe that's why you're here. Close your eyes and imagine it all from a distance. Not the earth, not the stars, but everything. The whole universe. A vast spiraling cathedral of light and silence. Zoom further, past the galaxies, past the filaments, until everything, every structure, every star, every breath becomes a faint shimmerin, a black canvas, a web of cosmic memory stretching in all directions, threaded by gravity, stitched by time. Now, here's the twist. Everything we've said about the Big Bang, the stretching of space, the heat, the light, assumes one thing: that the universe is alive, moving, becoming. But what if it isn't? What if all of this already happened? What if what we call the present is nothing more than a signal echoing through a dead system? A simulation replaying its final act. A flicker of memory caught in a closed loop of cosmic recursion. Think of a dying computer looping its last recorded frame. A screen frozen with a smile. A heartbeat stuttering in stillness. What if we are inside that final loop? Some physicists now believe the universe may be undergoing heat death. A slow, inevitable fade into entropy. No stars, no structure, no contrast, no information. A cold, dark silence expanding forever. But what if that silence has already arrived, and we're just the afterglow? What if the Big Bang wasn't the beginning of something, but the end of something else? A collapse so perfect, it echoed backward through time, repainting reality with the illusion of birth, hiding its own death in the beauty of a beginning. You think you're watching the story unfold, but what if you're watching it rewind? What if time is not moving forward at all, but remembering itself in reverse? Picture this. The galaxies are not expanding. They're scattering like ashes, the microwave. Background? The ember of a fire long extinguished. Your life? A flame flickering in a sealed room with no doors. And yet, even as the temperature falls, even as light thins and time wears out, someone is watching. Maybe that's the point. Maybe the universe needed to be witnessed, not understood, not survived, just seen. Because observation creates meaning and meaning survives death. So maybe this entire universe, its birth, its physics, its mystery, was a message meant for itself. A self-aware ripple in the dark. A final act of defiance against eternity. And here you are, at the end of the story that pretends to be a beginning, not just a person, but the universe, folding in on itself. One last question whispered into the void. What was I? And maybe somewhere beyond the edge of this universe, beyond light, beyond thought, another version of you is watching this video right now, wondering the very same thing. You've made it this far. Through the silence before creation, through the fire of stars and the shadow of time, through loops, paradoxes, simulations, entropy, and echoes, you stood at the edge of the singularity. You stared into the expanding dark. You heard the universe speak, not in words but in questions. And now, here you are. Still wondering, we unraveled the myth of the Big Bang. We shattered the illusion of a simple beginning. We questioned time, reality, even existence itself. We journeyed into quantum fog, cosmic horizons, and the possibility that this universe is only one of many. But we didn't find answers. We found mirrors. And maybe that was the point, because this story was never about solving the mystery. It was about feeling it, sinking into it, letting it swallow you whole, and whisper back the truth. You are the question. You are the echo. You are the part of the universe that asks why. So what now? Do you forget this? Do you go back to your life as if this was just a video, just entertainment, just noise? Or do you hold on to it? The feeling of standing outside yourself. The weight of infinite galaxies balanced on a single thought. The strange idea that even if this universe ends, the story might not. Because maybe the universe wasn't built to last forever. Maybe it was built to be noticed. And maybe, just maybe, that's what you were made for. To witness, to wonder, to keep asking long after the stars go silent. You are not the conclusion. You are the continuation. A spark still burning at the edge of the known. So here's the call. Don't stop. Keep questioning what can't be answered. Keep reaching past the light. Keep imagining what might lie beyond this story, beyond this reality, beyond this moment. Because the universe may have no end. But maybe, just maybe, neither do you.